Welcome to this week's edition of Black Authors Matter TV, where we interview the latest movers and shakers in the African American literary community. You'll meet some old friends, discover new ones, and stay abreast of the latest book developments around the country and even the world. So sit back and relax for the next 2 hours with Black Authors Matter TV co-hosts Gwen Richardson and Dr. Rhonda Lawson.
Good evening, Happy New Year, and welcome to the first edition of Black Authors Matter TV for 2026. I can't believe we went through a whole year so fast, but at any rate, we're here and we have a great lineup for tonight for the whole month. We've already gotten the whole month booked almost. So we are very excited and welcome to the show. I'm Gwen Richardson, your host for tonight, along with my co-host,
Dr. Rhonda Lawson. Good evening, everyone.
And we're going to be talking about a few special things, but I'm going to save that until after this first interview. Rhonda and I are going to share a couple of our favorite books for the year and just a few updates on the National Black Book Festival. But we're going to get started right away with our first guest, and her name is Erin Crosby Eckstine, and she is a historical fiction author. She is setting the literary world on fire with her book. And as a matter of fact, I bought my own copy because guess what? This is historical fiction, which is my favorite genre. So once I find out there's a book out that's good, I get a lot of feedback about it. In fact, I saw it on somebody's favorite books today on social media, their favorite books for last year. They had this as one. So, Erin, welcome to Black Authors Matter TV.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
You're welcome. And I believe is this your debut novel?
It is, yeah. This is my debut.
That's what I thought. And that's great that your debut has a little stamp on it, a seal that says Good Morning America Book Club.
Yes.
That is not common. There's a seal right on there. Or, well,
there is. I've been so excited to get to be a part of the Good Morning America Book Club this past year. I got to do like the big announcement and everything when Junie came out last February, and it's just been such a cool experience to be in the book club with so many other like amazing authors. And it was nerve-wracking because I had to go on national news, and that is scary. Other than that, it's been such a cool experience, and I'm so glad that Junie got picked for that.
Okay, before we get into the book, tell us a little bit about what happens when your book is picked for the Good Morning America Book Club.
Oh, okay. So this is actually kind of wild, but you find out a year in advance. So all those big book clubs, you find out a year in advance if your book is picked for most of them. So basically, I was like out living my life. I think I was like at a ceramics class and I got a call from my agent and she was like, "Hey, you need to get on the phone right now." And so I had to run home and I got on a call with someone who was head of publicity at Random House, which is where my book is published, who I'd yet to meet because it was still so early in my entire process of my book. And they told me, they were like, "Hey, you got picked for Good Morning America," which was incredible and, such a great experience. But it's also really funny because you find out a year in advance and then you have to keep it a secret for a year. So you're not allowed to tell anyone. You're supposed to tell as like few people as humanly possible. In your life. Obviously, like I told my husband and I told my parents and like it's like that. I'm like pretty certain my dad told people when he wasn't supposed to.
Yeah.
I like would put money on the fact that my dad, I think, probably said some stuff he wasn't supposed to, but I had to like really keep it on lock for like a year. Because yeah, it's supposed to be a secret. It's wild. So I basically spent a year knowing that I was going to be going on Good Morning America. And not being able to say or do anything about it and just being like, "Oh, in a year I have to go on national news."
That's a long time to keep a big secret. The same thing happens on reality shows.
Yes, it is. It's like that too.
Where's the selection process and people get eliminated, but it's taped, so they can't tell anybody. They're not supposed to say anything.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, it's a lot like that process.
On a reality show, and we still have not been able to tell anybody how he did on the show. we're still people have stopped asking because we just haven't been able to say anything.
Yeah, it's a real
Oh,
thing. I know, like, I've heard about, the show Love is Blind. I don't know if anybody else has watched Love is Blind, but on
yes,
Love is
I
Blind,
watched the first
these
season.
people get married and can't tell anyone for
Right.
like 18 months after they get married until the show airs. So they have to like
Oh,
hide that they're married. It's wild.
that is wild.
Yeah.
So, um, and so after you go on Good Morning America, and they make the announcement, are there any other like activities that happen, bookings or trips or anything else that goes on after the announcement, after the big announcement?
So generally what for me at least happened is I had before like the day of my announcement they aired a pre-taped interview that I did with Deborah Roberts, which was such a cool experience. So I did like a pre-taped Zoom interview with her. So on the day that my book came out, they aired that. And then a few days later, you go into the studio for your like actual sit down interview. So for me, the day of my interview, I'm lucky in the sense that I live in New York. So for me at least, I didn't have to travel excessively because I already live here.
Okay.
So I hopped in a car at like 5 o'clock in the morning and got whisked off to Times Square. And it was actually pretty cool. I think I was one of the last people to be interviewed in the Times Square studio before they moved studios. They're in a new studio now. So they whisk you off, they take you there, they tell you a little bit about stuff. You spend a bunch of time in hair and makeup, a whole bunch of time in makeup. And then once my makeup was done, they were like, okay, off you go. And they just like bring you on stage and, everything is like boom, 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 boom between all these segments. So right before me were like a bunch of like Boy Scouts. So I had like all of these kids who were right before me. And like, I think there were also puppies in there at one point. Like there's so much going on. And, they bring you in and your interview is only, my interview is maybe like 3 minutes. So you spend all this time kind of like getting yourself ready for this live experience. It's going to be this like quick little 3 minute thing. But what was super cool is that they put my book up on like the Jumbotron in Times Square, which I was like now saying that I got,
Oh, okay.
Jumbotron in Times Square, which is pretty cool. Having lived in New York as long as I have. So it was a really great experience. So that's generally your sort of most immediate stuff is you have this interview, and then after that you end up, you do a little bit of stuff on social media. I ended up doing like an Instagram live with Deborah Roberts a little bit after, and you kind of get into some things like that. Your book pops up at a lot of little free libraries around the country, which is pretty cool. And it just also ends up being just a really great way for a lot of readers to just discover your book in a way that they might not otherwise. So it's just a really great experience.
Well, they say that success is never an accident.
Mhm.
So I say all of that to say that this is your debut novel. And not only is this your debut novel, but you've been able to secure an agent, you have a major publishing house, and then you've been able to secure Good Morning America, um, the Good Morning America book club. So it seems that you were very intentional about how you wanted to go about getting your book published. So what was the thought process in just from concept to actually getting your book published? Because I'm sure none of this was an accident for you.
I think, thank you. I really appreciate that. It's a combination, my dad always loves to tell me the quote of that's like, like 90% of success is just showing up. My dad's a big fan of that quote. And I think, a lot of it with book success is to some extent been that. Junie is loosely based on a family story of mine, from my grandmother's side of the family in Alabama. I was born in Alabama, and my entire like maternal family is from Alabama. My grandmother had told me the story of my ancestor, my grandmother's grandmother's grandmother, who was enslaved in Lowndes County, Alabama, and there's this like really elaborate family story that goes along with it. And I was really inspired by that story to write this. That story ended up evolving into Junie. And honestly, in terms of the representation part of it and all of that, initially, when I started the book, I really was just trying to, it was a project that I was excited about. It was something that I felt very connected to my family. I was like extremely close with my grandparents, and my grandmother had always wanted to write a book and she'd never really gotten around to it. So in some ways it felt like it was something I could do that was sort of like connected to what she wanted and our relationship and all these different things. So I initially in writing Junie really was just diving into it as like a hobby and something to do. I was a high school teacher. I was a full-time school teacher. And I started Junie very initially in a class that I took, a writing class that I took here in Brooklyn. I ended up meeting like a really amazing community of other writers through that, and we all sort of started supporting each other in our own sort of book growth and career. Interestingly, another one of the authors in that original group just published her debut this year too, which is pretty cool. In terms of the agent and all of that, interestingly enough, that was something I kind of stumbled into. I ended up usually getting an agent is like a pretty regimented process. I ended up landing an agent via Twitter in 2020, which I would say is generally not the process. And I say I do not recommend to other people because agents don't generally like this, but I happened to come across a literary agent who was specifically looking for unagented Black writers online. And I happened to be the only person who answered. I just saw this and I was the only person who answered the message. So
because sometimes
That's
we
showing up.
who do that. No, but sometimes we'll see people who will say, I'm looking for such and such. And then we might see maybe 25 people will answer, but 24 of those people are not serious. But because we saw 25 people answer, we're like, well, they got who they wanted, so I'm not going to respond. But we didn't know that 24 of those people weren't serious.
Exactly.
So we talked ourselves out of something. So it's good that you responded because you just never know.
That was really what it came down to. Exactly. I really just didn't know. And at the time, Junie wasn't finished. It was still a work in progress. I really was reaching out to this person more so for, frankly, like feedback than anything and just trying to kind of move this process along. And it ended up being that I connected with this incredible agent, Michelle Brower. Michelle ended up becoming my initial literary agent. And, she and I've been a part of her agency, since. So really that initial sort of like just kind of jumping in and I think taking that risk initially is really what has helped to lead me to the places where I am now. I think that for me, a lot of it is, I think that there's a lot to sort of like consistently doing the work of writing and creating your story and committing to do that thing, even if it is just doing small amounts here and there. At that point in time, I'd probably been working on Junie for like 18 months, 2 years. At that point, in the background while I'm teaching, I had a full-time job that was very busy. I was doing a lot of stuff. But I just kind of kept at it here and there with what I had. And I think ultimately what a lot of it comes down to is I think just sort of diligently working at your little thing. And then when opportunities arise, trying to, take the risk of putting yourself out there a little bit, even if it is scary or you might get rejected or, all kinds of different things. I think that is ultimately a lot of where the sort of this path has, that was kind of what started me on this whole path.
Well, that's part of the showing up when you responded to that agent's tweet. That's one of those things where it's almost like a miracle, but you just never know where your opportunity is going to come from.
Exactly. Yeah.
And
I think it's like there are a lot of, miracles like that out there, but I think a lot of, for a miracle to work, you kind of have to be ready for the miracle.
Right. Because it's about faith. Faith without works is dead. So you can have all the faith in the world, but if you don't have some action to go with it, then so you could sit and say, well, I really want to write a book, and then you never get on your laptop or whatever.
Yeah, it's like you gotta put the words down at some point.
Yeah, the book is not going to write itself.
I love what you said, Erin. If you want a miracle to happen, you have to be ready for the miracle. Because Gwen, what if you think you're putting in the work, you're doing all of the writing, but you're not showing any progress. You're writing, but your writing hasn't gotten any better. You know what I mean? So you still have to put in the work. You still have to put in the progress. You still have to start getting, get better, get that feedback. Like you said, you only reached out to this agent to get feedback, to see if what you were doing was even on the right track. And it just wound up being that not only did you get feedback, but you got a book deal out of it.
Yeah, exactly. It just ended up being like a much better situation than I ever
And you could
anticipated.
imagine.
Exactly. And
Now,
I think, that's very much, the truth. And I think so much of it too, with writing in particular, is I think like learning to accept being bad. I think so many people are really, I also teach writing in addition to writing myself. And I think a lot of the writers I come across are so scared of not being good at writing and having to struggle through the process of not being very good. And the thing I always try to remind my students of is very much that like every single book that's ever landed on a shelf, that's ever anywhere, every book that you've ever loved was at one point like a really terrible first draft. Like every book is bad initially. All first drafts are usually sloppy and messy and confusing, and it takes people learning the skill of writing, editing, understanding their stories, getting feedback. It's a process. And I think what holds back so many people is that fear of like, oh, I'm not going to be good enough. I'm not good enough at this thing. Oh, this thing is terrible. But it's in reality, it's like everyone's kind of bad at it initially, certainly. And then pretty much always, every project kind of starts bad. Then it eventually comes together over years of time and effort and reading and, collaboration, all these different things. So I often think too, it's like learning to persevere a little bit through being bad is helpful.
yeah, and
Um,
fear of rejection is a real thing.
Very much so. Yeah, very much so. I often say, I think the biggest thing that helped me overcome a lot of my fear of rejection, because I was for most of my life terrified to share my writing with anyone. I was, really, really nervous about it. I didn't want anyone to read the stuff I read really, even if I did, anything I wrote, I was generally hiding, not finishing, and really not sharing with anyone. And I often say that I think the thing that helped me overcome that more than anything was my first year of teaching. I taught sixth grade, my first year of teaching, and I came to the end of that school year and was like, if I could survive a year of teaching
The
these sixth
sixth
graders,
graders.
I don't know why I'm acting like I'm scared of other things. Like, if I could deal with the thing that I dealt with on a daily basis for this year, why am I afraid to go sit with a bunch of other adults in a writing class? Like, that is ridiculous. And I think sometimes that, at least for me, was a lot of what put it into perspective. I was like, I just spent a year dealing with children, like trying to light fires in my classroom. I really have to move. I gotta do this thing. This is nothing compared to that.
Love that.
Yeah.
Now, is Junie the name of the main character?
Yes. So
And
in
was Junie a real person's name, or is that a name
Junie's
that was
Junie's a made up name. That is not the real
oh,
character. So
okay?
in terms of the background for the story, that Junie focuses on a 16-year-old enslaved girl on a plantation in Alabama. She is grieving the recent loss of her sister. And she currently is in a situation on the plantation where she serves as maid to the plantation owner's daughter, who is about her same age, and they have grown up together and sort of have like a something akin to a friendship. Um, but in this situation, Junie is also her maid, so obviously this is a not exactly a friendship. Um, and at the same time, news comes in that there's a potential that Violet, the plantation owner's daughter, is going to be married off. And Junie comes to realize that because of her position as Violet's enslaved maid, that if Violet were to get married, Junie would be ripped away from her home and sent wherever Violet goes. So Junie ends up committing a desperate act that ends up rousing her sister's ghost from the grave by accident. And that leads Junie onto this sort of larger coming of age, loss of innocence kind of journey, unearthing a lot of the secrets of this plantation that she has, literally never left in her entire life. So that's really the arc of the story. Junie, like I said, is loosely based on a family story of mine. It's based on an ancestor of mine that we call my grandma Jane. So Jane became Junie. But my grandma Jane, without getting into extreme details, because some of them are spoilers for the book, my grandma Jane ended up becoming a founder of the town that my family still literally lives in Alabama. It's like a blink and you miss it town in Alabama, but she did. She ended up becoming this, really incredible figure who really carved like a life for herself and ended up like becoming one of the sort of central figures in this initial all Black community in Alabama that like continues to exist in many ways. And a lot of her decisions and actions are what ultimately sort of like shaped the fortunes of her descendants, me, for, you know, century to come after. So a lot of that was what initially inspired the story. But what I often thought about was I wanted to focus on what we didn't really know about my ancestor, which is that we didn't really know anything about her time when she was enslaved. We had like no, you know, as you know, that's like a big, historically, that's just like a wall. Like you just
Yeah.
really don't know what happened to people during that time. The fact that I can even frankly like pretty clearly trace an ancestor to like a time and a relative place is like pretty uncommon. So I think that I really use the historical fiction here to want to like explore, okay, well, like what was this person's life potentially like prior to what we do know about her? And in addition to that, you know, add in some sprinkles of magical realism and some other themes that I was just like interested in.
You know, just the storyline that you talked about is so reminiscent of so many families. It's sort of like African Americana, I'll
Mm-hmm.
say. We all have some kind of story about a grandmother, or great grandmother, or great great grandmother, or someone. On my mother's side, they were able to trace back to the last slave. So we can do 7 generations on that side.
Yeah.
They kept pretty good records and all of that. And they were having a family reunion for a long time, for 50 years. And then that next generation kind of let it fall off. But my dad's side, we had very little information. So it's just, it varies from family to family. But the the bits and pieces that people get is like folklore,
Exactly.
about the
Yeah.
family, you
That's
know.
really what it ended up being is a lot like it became more like folklore. And with these stories, you know, my grandmother was very much like our family storyteller. She was really the person who maintained the family lore, is the way I like to describe it. She herself was like, I think a lot of the reason that I know this story happens to be because, you know, this was my grandmother's this is a lot of generations back for me.
Mm-hmm.
But my grandmother was raised, I was in large part raised by my grandmother. My grandmother was raised by her grandmother, and then that grandmother was raised by this grandmother. So you can
Oh,
see there's like a long
yeah.
trajectory of interconnected grandmas.
Mm-hmm.
And as a result, my grandmother knew all of her grandmother's stories. So it became this sort of way of maintaining things that my grandmother would routinely tell all of this family lore, whether it would be her own generation, the one before her, her grandma, like she knew everything and just kind of kept this like constant storytelling, you know, going on throughout my life. And so as a result, you know, because she maintained so many of those stories, I was able to learn a lot about these times that, and, you know, I did not obviously live through. And, you know, my grandmother was such a passionate storyteller. My grandmother loved to read. My grandmother was also a teacher. And you know, she and I were extremely close, and really was the person who I think more than anyone probably made me really love to read and like love books and really care about storytelling. And so I think in a large part, this whole book was very much connected to the relationship that I had to her and sort of that initial story that she told me, and as well as in so many ways, a lot of the other stories that sort of infiltrate into this and sort of the general folklore and the sort of like, you know, picture of Alabama that often formed through her own stories, mixed with, of course, like my own you know, conceptions of Alabama. I was born there and I lived there on and off till I was about 8. And my grandparents lived there until they passed away. So like I visited all the time.
Okay.
So you know, this book is very much set in the region of Alabama where more or less the region of Alabama where I'm from. So it is quite like connected to my own sort of like family and family lore.
This is the importance of what I call sitting at our ancestors' feet. So I've always said that I would love to sit. I've always loved sitting at my mother's feet, at my grandmother's feet, at my great aunt's feet, and listening to those stories. And there are certain stories that, because I sat and listened, I'm one of the few people in the family who knows certain stories.
Exactly. Yeah.
And because you sat and you didn't just sit there like, oh, I got to hear this again. You actually sat and listened. You were able to carry those stories over, and now you're able to encapsulate them into this book.
Exactly.
So I hope that more young people are taking these stories and holding them in their hearts, and they're taking the times that they have with their elders and actually valuing those times, because those moments are not going to last forever.
Yeah, they certainly do not last forever. And I do think that it is very important to, yeah, to value them. And I think my grandmother herself also sat, like I said, she really sat with the stories of her elders. She often said, she used to tell me that like part of the reason that she knew so many family stories, honestly, because she was just eavesdropping on people. Her bedroom when she was a kid was off the kitchen. And she told me her bedroom was off the kitchen, so she used to pretend to be asleep, but would really just be listening to all the adults talking. My grandmother was a trip her whole life, but she, one of her favorite things to do was she would just sit up pretending to be asleep and would just eavesdrop on people. And so she knew all of the stories because she was just listening to stuff she didn't have any business listening to. Um, and that was what she pretty much was doing. So a lot of family stories she knew because she was doing that. But I think that was also part of it, that she was, she was really interested in hearing all of the stories and the storytelling and knowing all the information, and then also cared about maintaining it her whole life. My grandma's memory never slipped, so she knew all that stuff like that forever. And that was, yeah.
Well, thank you for letting us know about the story, Junie. And as I said, I have my copy. I haven't read it yet because my to be read shelf is really, really overwhelming.
As
But
is mine, I
I will
understand.
get to it. It is on my list to get to. And it's available wherever books are sold. Is the
It is.
paperback coming out soon?
Yes, the paperback comes out next month.
Okay,
So
that's what I
in
thought. Normally
one
it's a
month from
year later.
today, you can get the
Okay.
paperback. So if you do not want to lug around a heavy hardcover, wait a month.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being a guest on the show. Congratulations
Thank
on
you
the
so much for having me. This was such a great time.
yeah, your
Thank you for
debut
being
novel. That's
here. Best
amazing.
wishes to you.
Yes, you too. Happy New Year. Bye.
Bye
Bye-bye.
bye. Okay, so before our next interview, we're going to just chat a little bit about what our one or two of our favorite books from last year that we read. And I was looking for my copies of my books, and I realized I gave them to my sister when she came to visit, so I don't have the copies anymore. But I did pull it up on one of them up on my iPad, and I would say I had two for this year or last year. Mr. Jimmy from Around the Way, and I don't know if people can see it. I don't know. It's
Also, we
probably.
have a book in common. I like that one too.
Oh, okay. Wow. It was amazing. Excellent book. He was a guest on the show. His name is Jeffrey Blunt. And I don't, yeah, there, maybe you can see it there. But amazing storytelling. Just an incredible book. And my sister loved it too after she read it. So that was one of so we both had shared that one in common. That's something. And my other one that I would say for last year is The Filling Station
I didn't read
by
the station yet.
by Vanessa Miller. And I need to pull it up so people can see the cover. The Filling Station. Yeah, there we go. Should come up right here. It was it's done very well. It's historical fiction. The other one is just like contemporary fiction, but this one's historical fiction. And it's based on the Tulsa race riots and an actual filling station that people sought refuge. And it was kind of a core within the Black community there in Tulsa. And she did an excellent job of telling that story, fictionalizing it with characters, but she did an excellent job of telling that story. Do you have another one you want to share, Rhonda?
Oh yeah, well, there were a few of them that I really enjoyed. So there were a few of them that I'm an audiobook girly, so I'm
Yes.
trying to find some that I really enjoyed. So one, oh wait, shoot, there we go.
Okay.
So Miracle at St. Anna,
Oh,
by
James
James
McBride.
McBride. Yeah.
Okay.
That was one that I really enjoyed. I saw the movie, but the movie really does not do the book any justice.
Yeah, that is rare that
Right.
that happens.
So many of you probably saw the Spike Lee movie, but I really wanted to read the book, and there are a lot of layers to the story that the book was not able to get into. And
Okay.
the book is
You mean the movie?
so
The
much.
movie wasn't able to get.
The movie didn't get into a lot of the layers, but the book is just so much deeper. It was really, really good. And I already discussed Eric LaSalle's books. I really he's one of those books you can't say you enjoyed them because his books are a little.
I read the first one.
Disturbing.
I read Laws of Depravity. I read that one.
I read Laws of Depravity and Laws of Wrath.
Okay.
I love the characterization in his books, and he's a student of psychology, so he really gets into the psychology of the characters, and he makes you really get to know those characters in a good way and a bad way. So I really love the characterization in his books. So I'll say that.
So I have a lot. I've already gotten started reading for this year. And over the holidays, before we bring the next guest on, over the holidays, I read a novella, and this is it. This is the first time I ever read a Christmas book. So, surprise. This is Rhonda's book. Surprise Swipe Right. This was her first time writing a Christmas book, I think you said.
Yes, it was.
It was entertaining and it was realistic. I enjoyed it. And it was a quick read. I pretty much read it in one sitting, maybe, a day. It's not too thick, but it's really a cute story. So kudos to you on that.
Thank you. And just very quickly, I want to give a shout out to Malika Stevely.
Okay.
She's been on the show before. Her book, what was the name of her book?
Yeah, I'm looking. I can visualize her book cover, but I can't recall the name.
Song of Redemption.
Okay.
Yeah. So I finished her book right before the holidays, or just after the holiday. But she actually won my first For the Culture Book Awards with that story, and she did a really good job with it. And so I just wanted to give her a shout out because I was finally able to finish reading it. I try not to read any of the books when they're going through my contest because I don't like to introduce bias. So I don't read books until after the contest is over with. So I finally got a chance to read her book. And I just wanted to give her a shout out because she did a really good job with that story.
Okay. All right. Well, you all got to hear a little bit about what we read last year. It's not a complete list, of course, our favorites. So anyway, and more to come, lots of books coming out this year, more to come. And we're bringing on our next guest. She was on about 6 weeks ago, but we had some technical problems with Zoom. And so we wanted, she wasn't able to finish her interview. And so we wanted to bring her back for her full interview. And she has her book covers on there on her backdrop, and very nice covers, I will say. Very professional looking. And because I think you're self-published, if I'm not mistaken. Tracee Garner is the guest, and you can see her name on the screen.
How's everybody doing? I'm both self-published and traditionally published. How are y'all?
Oh,
wonderful.
Wonderful.
The background. I love how you have the book covers and the name.
Thank you.
That could be like your Facebook cover too.
Yep, it could be anything. And Canva. I love Canva. I'm a Canva addict.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Canva post on my wall. I'm
Mm-hmm.
starting to get into to Chat GBT. I've noticed that people are starting to use that to make their flyers, but I don't know if I
Yep.
like the look of it yet. So I want to play with that a little more.
Plus, you're never sure how many hands the chat is going to put on there. There's some extra hands they put on people sometimes.
They do. They
Fingers on
do.
one hand.
That's how you can
Yeah,
sometimes,
yeah.
or sometimes the arm or the hand will go through the other person, like not on their
Oh my
shoulder,
goodness. Yes,
actually
yes.
going
So
through them.
it's
So have
I'm
to be
sure it'll get
careful
better though. It'll get
with
better and
Yeah,
Chat
I'm
better.
sure.
GPT and any AI related stuff.
Mm-hmm. It's
But
getting better though.
I'm using it a little bit. But you Canva experts, you all have at it. That's graphics is not my strength at all, and I stay away from it. I told you I did one Canva project, and it was just too much stress. So, and it didn't
Once you
even
get the
really
hang
have
of
to.
it, it's super easy. It really is.
I'd rather write 5,000 words than to try to deal with Canva trying to
Wrestle
do a
again.
visual. I leave it to the experts. So, Tracee, tell us
Yeah.
about you and what got you started writing books.
Yeah, so my story is I broke the internet the last time I was here, so that's what I'm sticking with, okay? So many people were trying to get on to see my interview time that it just broke down.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm Tracee Lydia Garner. I am a Virginia native, and I've been writing now. This is my 25th or 26th year. I've written 22 books, about to have number 23 come out in the fall to go along with my 50th birthday. So I just always been writing since I was in elementary school. I wrote for my newsletter. I wrote for my campus literary magazine, Poetry at the time. And then when I got towards the end of my college years, I entered a contest and I ended up winning the grand prize, and it just changed my life. I really wrote from a place of depression, though. I was very sad. I was like, school's hard, especially math for liberal arts, which is supposed to be for, creatives. And it's just not. It's just other types of math that they gave a different name to make you think that it was for creatives, but it's still just as hard. So when I was failing that, I'm sorry, my eye is watering, but from allergies. But when I was, sorry?
So we thought you were bringing back flashbacks or something that was making you cry.
No. I only cry at night in the dark by myself after listening to WHUR radio too much. But anyway, I entered a contest and I
Isn't that
won.
in the DC DMV?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
It
what
is, it is.
I when I was
Shout
at
out.
Georgetown, I listened to it.
Love WHUR, but
It's still
yes.
going strong, huh?
It's still going. It's still moving people. But yeah, that's my jam. I love radio and music, period. But what I was saying is that I entered a contest and I won a grand prize, a trip to New York, and a $500 advance, and of course publication in the book. And I entered 2 more books that got contracted with the house at the time. It was BET Books. One time long ago, eons ago, the largest publisher of African American romance at that time. This is about 2001, 2002. And so I just continued on my writing journey, getting more contracts and then self-publishing. So it's just been something that I've stuck with through every single life event, through every change. I keep coming back to my writing because it really saved me. It really helped me to find my voice and purpose, and really gave me something to kind of fall back on, helped me hone my writing skills, writing grants. I mean, I write everything, but just gave me so much purpose and direction and clarity. And I just love creating characters and telling lies, only on paper, not in real life.
Well, if it's fiction, it's not lies. It's really
Okay.
truth.
Who says
Who are the
it's
characters
fiction?
in the book? Well, I thought you write novels, but maybe you write some other
I
stuff.
do, but they're ripped from the headlines.
Well,
They're
yeah.
real things. I'm a news junkie, And, I feel like the news is such a great place for, people end up on the news because of one bad choice or a series of choices. And I always wonder what happened to them. So writing my books has really been about like fixing things you can't solve. I get obsessed with missing persons. So I just think about things and characters. We're all characters really, but the choices we make kind of end up in my tales, and they stem from real truth. But I'm hoping to become a true crime writer one day. I don't know if I can handle it. If I can stay awake long enough and not fall asleep and have nightmares, maybe I'll be a true crime writer. But I love stories and hearing about people and things that they've done, and sometimes poor choices they make, which all my characters make poor choices, but they triumph in the end and they get it together.
There you go.
Okay, so that's your formula of what you start with when you have your premise for your story. The character that makes poor choices, and that's something that we can see in people, around us in our lives, where you can see them making poor choices, or sometimes you tell them, look, that's not a good choice, but they don't listen. They think they already know. And you tell them that because you've seen it happen to someone, not necessarily yourself. You've seen the end result from other people, so you don't have to experience everything to know how things are going to come out. Some things lead to other things,
True.
So,
And that's what you get to tell in my stories. Trying to how do they find their way out of some of the situations they created. And sometimes you get pulled along. It's not always your fault. You didn't make the choice, but you kind of was with the wrong people and you don't quite know that sometimes. So sometimes you're along for the ride to no fault of your own. And you have to get out of that too. Bad relationships. You didn't know he was crazy when you met him. He looked pretty good, but things happen, and you have to come out of that. And I love telling about how people evolve and grow, and a little bit of inspiration too, how people deal with their faith and reality and things, and triumph in the end.
yeah, I think Cray Cray shows up pretty early, but maybe some people like say that, well, that can be, it's like unbelievable, it's incredible, but it shows up pretty early, and it kind of takes you aback, and then you're like, whoa, what was that about? So you have to just be discerning. That's where discernment comes in. But now you write in romance, the romance genre. This
Romantic
on the
suspense.
screen looks
Yes.
like it's a suspense. Is it a romantic suspense or more like a
Yeah,
mystery?
right. Romantic suspense. Yes. A little
Okay.
bit of also who done it. There's a little bit of everything, but I love car chases and things blowing up and people trying to kill you. All of that really resonates with me. I love writing about some excitement. Straight romance has its place and it's interesting, but something's got to happen. Something's got to, happen to these people, or else, make it exciting.
Okay. So romantic suspense as a genre means there's romance and suspense. I mean, I'm like boiling it down to the basics, but whereas straight romance is more just the boy meets girl, they
Right.
fall in love,
Yeah.
they have some sort of breakup, they resolve it in the end, and they live happily ever after.
Right. I think it's important to just denote it's really the conflict. The conflict can be between just the hero and the heroine, or whoever the main characters are. But in romantic suspense, there's sometimes some external factors that add an extra layer to, prohibit the people from getting together in the end. It still ends happily, but there's just a little bit more of edge of your seat kind of happenings, something to kind of up it a little bit, up the excitement, up like, well, who killed who, or who did it? Did she did it, or he did it, or just kind of also finding out kind of these extra layers and how they really impact the couple, or the main characters in the story.
Okay, now the book series that you're showing on the screen, tell us about those three books and how they are connected together.
Yeah, they're all siblings. There's actually 4 books in the series. They're all complete, and I actually have two family series right now. One is this is the Jameson family series. It starts with Whatever May Come. She is a school teacher who tries to start her life anew after a scandal happened in Virginia. She moves all the way down to Macon, Georgia, where she tries to start over as a school teacher in a new school, even a newly built, newly constructed school. And some of her past has followed her from Virginia to kind of exact revenge on her and what they feel she did to her. She did to them. So, but yeah, they're all siblings. I start with the youngest first, Tish, and then go on to the oldest brother, Jojo. He's not pictured his story, but he's one of the stories. So I just always have a thread of connection. Even in her sister's story, you'll see their family growing. She becomes pregnant with twins. So in each book, you get a little glimpse of the first family that I showed, and they all come together. And she actually ends up, by book 4, moving back home to be with her family. So all my stories have a really huge family and faith element in them. I have another series, the Parker Brothers series. They're all adopted brothers. The woman who adopted them could not have her own children, so she adopted 5 boys over the course of her and her husband's life and built her family that way. And with them being adopted, they all have some different baggage and some emotional issues. The first book in that is Anchored Hearts, and it's about the first boy coming home to bury his adopted mother as she's dying of cancer. And so that kind of starts the impetus for all the boys returning home and the loves that they left and lost, and rekindling some emotions and some some relationships that have gone awry, but lots of secrets and things revealed in that. So that's the series that's out now, the Parker Brothers series. And I'm starting a new series with 3 African-American brothers who own a large resort in somewhere between, I haven't quite decided, but it's somewhere between Southern Virginia and North Carolina. So I need all the water, I need the cliffs, I need the mountains. So there's a little bit of everything, and I'm working on that book now.
Okay, now where are you from in Virginia? I don't remember if we talked about this before because we were having those technical problems, and I don't think we got to it. But you said Southern
I live
Virginia.
in,
Where you?
well, no, that's where the story takes place. I'm actually from Alexandria, Virginia, but I live in
Okay.
Sterling currently near Dulles Airport.
Okay.
That's like the major artery people know. But yeah, 10 minutes from Dulles. I've been here almost 30 years. I've been in Virginia my whole life, but I've been in Northern Virginia for almost 30 years, huh?
So yeah, you're right down the street from me too.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So where did you grow up? What part of Virginia did you grow up in?
In Alexandria,
Oh,
Springfield,
okay.
Fairfax County.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay. So
up and down the
always Northern Virginia.
I-95.
Okay.
Yes,
All right.
always Northern Virginia.
Yeah. Okay.
Mhm.
Well, I'm from Newport News, so that was why I asked. So
Okay.
yeah,
Yep. I've been to
that's
Newport News.
near
The resort
Louisiana.
in my book is probably past like Danville, I think, down there, almost across to the border, because it kind of borders Virginia and North Carolina, wherever that sweet spot is to get all that. So I haven't quite decided, but I need to study some maps so I can write about it accurately.
Oh, that always helps.
Now, all of your books, the storylines or the settings in Virginia?
Mostly Virginia, just because one thing is like getting it wrong. The reviewers will be like, that doesn't exist in Virginia. They love to tell you all these things. Well, did you enjoy the book? Yes, but there were some discrepancies. So I kind of stick to what I know and, want to avoid that. Another reason why I don't write historicals. What did you say, Dr. Rhonda?
I said Virginia love to point out a discrepancy.
Yes, yes. Reviewers, especially, they can be notorious, but we love them. A lot of them, the majority of them, have wonderful things to say. There's always a couple, others who have a little too much time on their hands. But for the most part, it's been great reviews. And But yeah, I love talking about, I mean, there's so much scandal in the DC metro area. There's just so much material. So, I mean, that's the other thing. And I do think about branching out. I would love to write about settings in other countries, but again, it's just, there's so much here. It's rich. It's really rich everywhere. You're really only limited by your imagination of what you want to tell. But yeah, so Virginia's been it, but also southern states and other things that I've traveled to, and been overseas to once, and just haven't really branched out because there's just enough. And I actually don't focus a lot on setting in my story. It's always a city setting because there's just a lot to work with. But except for Macon, Georgia, there was a small town that I actually got the newspaper from locally, and a nurse wrote me from Macon, Georgia, saying nobody ever talks about our town. I was like, well, great. So that was kind of fun. So yeah, I should definitely branch out and write about more places. But this is where it's at. The DMV, as far as I'm concerned, there's always something to write about. So I got
there's
all
lots
kinds of material.
action and activity there, and
Everywhere,
Rhonda lives
really.
there, so she'll attest to that. And when I was there eons ago, so it's not the same as when I was there.
Mhm.
But I had someone read my book. I think it was a book club, so I think it was on a Zoom. I don't remember,
Mhm.
but she made a reference to something I had in my book, and she said it wasn't true, and it was true. So she, in my book, the couple, there was two couples that were friends. They played spades on the weekends,
Mhm.
and part of the conversation was that she was going to run a Boston. And the book club person said, you don't have Bostons in spades. I said, yes, you do. Because she was a big whist player, and she didn't realize that you can run a Boston in spades. So anyway, I corrected her.
There you go.
Must
And
not
that
have
was
been
a while
book
back.
club.
I remember it though.
Mhm. And the other thing about fiction is you can make up whatever you want to. People build worlds, and
You can.
even if it's true or not true, it's your book. That's what
Yeah,
I love about it. I
your
can do
story.
whatever I want to because it's your story. She
And you're
wants to
telling it the way that
have the
you.
rules.
Yeah.
Tell her to write a book. That's what I always tell
Yeah.
people. Did you write a book? That usually kind of gets them like, no, I didn't write. You should try it. It's harder than you think, but yeah, it's all fun. People just love to tell you about any things that you missed, or it should be like this or that, and haven't actually attempted, this craft. It's not always easy.
No. Well, sometimes they'll tell you a line of thinking that they had based on your storyline
Hmm.
that you never thought of.
Yeah.
They'll bring up something. Well, I thought he was going to do this, and it's interesting to hear somebody say that about people who aren't real.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yes, yes.
So
We all remember the Little Mermaid, and people having issue with that.
For fellow readers, because as movie watchers, we do the same thing when we're watching a
Of
movie.
course.
And
Yeah.
being a soldier, when I'm watching a movie that's let's say a military movie, and
Mm-hmm.
they do something that I know for a fact that we would not do in the army, it goes through me. Or when
Mm-hmm.
I watch a movie or I read a book that takes place in New Orleans, and instead of leaning on fact, they lean on the stereotype. It goes through me. It does
Mm-hmm.
something to me. So I can
Mm-hmm.
understand when people point out certain things. It's not that
Right.
they're trying to write the book for you, or that
Mm-hmm.
we're trying to write the movie for somebody. It's just that sometimes we're like, that's not how it would really be. And so I can kind of understand sometimes why some people
Yeah.
would do certain things. Now, it doesn't mean that I'm going to write the director and tell them that
Mm-hmm.
they did a bad job. Or it's not going to bother me so much that I'm going to write the author and tell them that, there's no such thing as a Boston and a spades game. It's not going to bother me that much. But I'm just saying, I think we're all guilty of it to a certain degree.
Yeah.
That's
Absolutely. Everybody has an opinion. And honestly, I want that. I want the feedback. I want it to be discussion. There's just some people who can take it a little too far. But for everyone else, you want them to have some kind of emotional reaction. You want them to, discuss with you, why'd you do that? Why'd you do that to the character? Oh, I wish you had a killed him off, or I wish he had a lived. And it's all good because that means you read it and you had any response at all. And that's always good. It's always good for people to have a response, both good and bad. I take everything, in and under consideration. So I like it when people take time because a lot of people don't realize how solitary and sometimes lonely writing is. And so to get feedback from somebody who read your book or took the time, whether they liked it or hated it, I'm still happy over both of those reactions because you took the time out and you spent your money on the book and whatever you had, that's good. That's a good discussion. Let's talk about it. And it just provides, something for us to have discourse about. So I like that. It doesn't deter me. I'm still going to, and the other thing is that, some authors, after one book or two books, they kind of throw in the towel. And so I'm dedicated to I've written 22 books. Like I'm obviously here for the long haul. Nothing will deter me from writing my books. I can have all the bad reviews in the world. I write for me because I love it and it just brings me joy. So whatever anybody can say won't deter me. But the people that are deterred are the ones who aren't committed, or they had a bad book, or they thought they'd be rich instantaneously after one hit. And it just doesn't work that way. You have to really be dedicated to the craft and to taking all good and bad things that go along with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and people have to realize when you're a writer and you write books that your work outlives you.
Mm-hmm. It does. Like, yeah, I could get a book deal, posthumously. I would hate that. It would be sad, but my family would be happy and taken care of, right? Get picked up on Netflix. But yeah, it happens all the time. So many writers died and didn't become famous until after they died. They were not popular.
Dickey's book is being made into a Netflix.
Yes, I actually posted that on my Facebook. It's a movie. I'm not sure. But I did see that. I posted it on my Facebook page when it first came out. But I mean, everybody, even Shakespeare, artists and thinkers, they were not popular while they were living often. People thought Shakespeare wrote trash and they didn't understand it. And now it's read, in millions of public schools. So it's amazing. And that's another thing is that it's going to outlive everything, so you never know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Have a classic. So, what is the main thing, like when people read a Tracee Garner book, what do you want them coming away with in terms of your message or your content?
Yeah, I just want them to be uplifted, to see that, my characters made mistakes just like they might have made in their own life, and to be uplifted and inspired and have faith. I talk about God very subtly in my books, but it's there, to be to either draw, nearer to their relationship with God and see people having trouble with their faith, and maybe some of them out there in the world doing wrong. One of the brothers, the reason why there's only 4 books for 5 adopted brothers is because one of them goes to jail. Not writing a book about him, but you see how 4 of them made it and became really upstanding and successful African-American men. And you see one who was led astray and was actually severely injured in jail in the book 4. That's the last book of that series. And so it's a cautionary tale about choices, and hopefully people can see themselves reflected in my stories, things and happily, but not without struggle and not without adversity, because that's what life is. It's a real big struggle and you have to fight to the end. Life is a battle. And so I give my characters battles, but I want people to be happy at the end, not throw my book, across the room like, what is that? So I want them to enjoy it and hopefully get some inspiration and just be entertained as well. Be entertained, but be inspired.
Okay. Well, Tracee, thank you so much for being a guest on the show. I'm
Thank you.
grateful we didn't have any tech issues.
Yay.
It's rare that we have, but that was one off. So we really appreciate you being a guest. Congratulations on your 20 plus books,
Thank
and
you.
congratulations on another 20 if you keep
Hope
writing, like
so.
you said.
All right. Y'all take care. Thank you for having me.
Thank you
Okay,
for
have a great night.
You too.
Okay, before we bring on our next guest, I just wanted to make people aware the National Black Book Festival is the registration is open for authors to register for this year. The dates are October 22nd through the 24th. We've had really great early registrations. And we even have people buying the tickets, buying VIP passes already, um, 10 months out. This is really unprecedented. So we're happy about that. And at the end of this next interview, Rhonda, if you want to take a couple of minutes to talk about your Black History Month Literary Weekend. So we're bringing on our next guest, and I believe this is him. It said an iPhone, so I'm assuming that it is the guest. You never know if they don't have their names on their whatever their messaging or whatever. That is him. So, as you all know, there are a lot of people on Instagram and TikTok, different platforms who are talking about books, and they have a major following of people hearing about books that they like and their opinions about books. So I just happened to be watching, scrolling, and I saw, is it pronounced Edrick or Edrick?
Edrick.
Edrick, okay. Edrick, Edrick reads it. Is that what Edrick reads?
Yeah, Edrick read it.
Edric read it. Okay. And you were talking about the books that you had read, and you had a lot, I forgot how many followers, but it was thousands. And so I said, you know what? We need to start having some of these people on the show that are influencers and, you know, digital creators, content creators that are talking about books that wouldn't necessarily be known to the general public of readers. And so, but even though they're making waves because they have lots of followers. So, welcome to the show,
Thank you.
Edric.
Thank you for
Ron, you
having
said
me.
Edric, right?
Yeah.
Edric. Okay, Cedric. I have to think of Cedric, and then that'll put me on the path to the correct pronunciation. So anyway, because I don't like to mess up people's names. Um, as someone who has a difficult name to pronounce, not Gwen, but my whole name, I really respect people's names. So, tell us how you got into what made you create your page and talk about what you've read. What like led you to do that?
So I've always loved reading. Um, I went through a lot of like different stages in my life where like I read a lot of nonfiction, and things like that. But about 2 to 3 years ago, I challenged myself to read more fiction, and I really fell in love with fiction. And really, I was going through a life change. I was selling a home and going through a divorce, and was just like, hey, like, let me try something new and just kind of like try to find a community of people to like talk about these books that I'm enjoying with, and started posting online about it, and it just kind of grew from there. But I enjoy reading romance, sci-fi, fantasy, thrillers. So pretty much everything except for horror. I'm a scaredy cat, so I don't read horror. But other than
Okay.
that, yeah.
Now, how long have you been doing this in terms of letting people know what you're reading and I guess getting the feedback on what you posted?
So just under a year. I started the end of January last year posting in
Okay.
general.
Okay.
Like prior to that, like I knew about like book talk a little bit, but I had never posted or anything like that. Um, and honestly, I was kind of intimidated. Like I just kind of felt like I'm just starting to get into this fiction space. Like, why would people care what I think of it? You know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I think it just kind of grew into something more so like less about like people caring what I have to say, but more so just like experiencing the books together.
Okay, so do you actually talk about it and get feedback? Is it an interactive presentation that you do?
Yeah, so like I do two primary things. So basically I think what kind of helped my page grow and what I tend to do is I'm not a very fast reader. So what I do is I do reaction videos to different chapters throughout the book like as I'm reading it
Oh,
so that
okay.
I'm not spoiling it, but it kind of like gives people a sense of like he likes this, so maybe I would like to read it, you know? And
Okay.
then once I get to the end of the book, I do the actual like book review where I talk about like what I enjoyed about it, and I try to do that as spoiler free as well. Um, and as far as that, yeah, like I just do the review and then just kind of discuss amongst um the comments and things like that with what people liked, what people didn't like, and things like that. Yeah.
So how are you choosing your books?
Honestly, it started off with I started off with A Nightingale by Kristen Hanna um, on Book Talk, and then people just started recommending different books from different genres and things like that. So I started trying different genres, trying different authors, and then I started to find things that I liked and just started to lean more into those, and just kind of fine tuning that taste of like what it is that I personally like to read. Um, so now it's gotten to the point where like I know certain authors, I know I'm gonna like them, like S.A. Cosby or Kennedy Ryan or Tia Williams and Natasha Bishop and authors like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then when I try newer authors, it's more so just based on the genre and that's pretty much where I get it from. But most of it is from people that are on Book Talk that have seen my videos that are recommending to me, hey, I think you would like this book.
Okay, so are you reading full time or have you been able to monetize what you're doing?
So no, I don't do it full time. I still I work my 9 to 5 and then I read for leisure. I have a book club that we read together as well. Excuse me. I've been able to monetize some things, like like you'll do like advertisements and things like that. Like I've worked with Kindle Unlimited and bookshop.org and a couple of places like that. Um, and some publishers and things like that. But yeah.
So I think the video that I saw, I think I watched a couple of them, but it's just the whole thing intrigued me. Just you talking about your books and books you had read and how many people were watching and commenting. That's what that's what got my attention. And I
Yeah.
think you were talking about romances at the time,
Yeah.
which which you normally don't think of men reading romance books.
Yeah. I
So,
think I think that's been like the one of my favorite things. So like before, I've always been into like reading, but when I went to school for media studies, and I was into like film and things like that. And one of my favorite film genres was like rom coms and things like that. So I think that naturally just kind of like transitioned into books as well. But like you said, I think kind of what made it stand out was the fact that there's not very many men in the space, especially that are reading romance.
mhm.
Um, but I think it's cool too because I see a lot more men reading romance and seeing that it's not just like cheesy, like it's not just like lovey-dovey romance. It can be like you can learn a lot from it as well as be entertained by it as well.
So, kind of like Think Like a Man when the book came out. You know, Act Like a Lady, Think Like Steve Harvey's book.
Yeah.
It ended up being the movie and all of that where
Act
he
like
was
a lady,
giving
think like a man.
Act Like a Lady. And actually that book has some good advice. I read it because I wanted to see what he had to say and to see if it was a comedy. What I was really reading it for was to see if it was just a humorous book. You know, Steve Harvey he's just such a natural comic.
Yeah.
Or if it was actually serious advice. And it was actually serious advice that was pretty good advice.
Yeah. See, for that, I've only seen the movie. I definitely want to read the book though, for sure.
The
You
book,
know,
well, it was more geared toward women. The
Okay.
book was
yeah, a
really
lot
to me.
of men read the book because they were mad at the book. So a lot of men read a
They
lot
thought
of
he was giving away
the
secrets.
book
Right.
out of anger, right? Giving away the secrets.
Well, it wasn't really secrets. It's more observations. And if you, as a female, you can see most of it if you're really paying attention.
Mhm.
But but he had some additional things that I had to give myself like he could be right about that. But it was really interesting read, and it led to the movie and it led to other things. He's a hardworking man. He's just doing.
Yeah.
I love him on Family Feud. To me, Family Feud wouldn't even be Family Feud without Steve Harvey. The other
No, I
host,
feel that.
it just wasn't. Because he makes every episode just a comedy show. But anyway, okay, I have another question about you with your podcast. Have you had any females, and you can answer this in the way that you feel comfortable answering, but have you had any females proposition you?
So no, I would say like I've gotten a couple compliments and things like that. But for the most part, I feel like it's very just like respectful. I think that I feel like with certain things at the very beginning of when I started posting, um, I could sense that people were a little bit skeptical. And
Okay.
I think that like when it starts off, I think that it's natural, like you said, like this space is overwhelmingly it's women, it's dominated by women.
Mhm.
And I think that it's natural that the women in that space would be skeptical of a man coming into that space and trying to see, is he here for books or is he here to bait women, like um so I think that at the very beginning it was more so like that. um but now I think it's just kind of like grown into a thing like, okay, like this is what he's here for. I've gotten a couple compliments like here and there, but other than that, it's really just been like a hey, what are you interested in as far as like reading? And I've been able to have a lot of like good conversations with people. Um, and that's been really like the most fun part of it, is just like getting to meet so many people and hear different perspectives and be able to talk to so many different women about their perspectives on books. Be able to discuss how I felt about it as a man reading the same books as them.
Now, do you get because there are a lot of newer authors or maybe lesser known authors because and I've been to your Instagram and TikTok, and there are, the Kennedy Ryans, the S.A. Cosby's, like you mentioned earlier, some of the more well-known authors. So
Mhm.
then you'll have maybe some first-time authors or newer authors who are like, I would love to be able to get on this platform. This would help me out, but they may be intimidated. Like, well, I don't know if these book talkers are reading a newer book because I never see them promoting a newer author. So how
Yeah,
do I get on that person's radar?
yeah. Um, so I like, all right, so personally, like I know a lot of like book talk creators that do like highlight a lot of indie authors,
Mhm.
and like a lot of up and coming authors. I do my best to highlight indie authors and up and coming authors. I think the best way, honestly, is to just email me. I think a lot of times people send, because we're on social media, they send like a message on social media.
Mhm.
Um, which is fine. It's just it's harder to find the messages sometimes because if a lot of people are messaging, then it gets kind of lost.
Well,
Um,
I'll tell you that, and I don't have as many for. I'm like right behind you, but
yeah,
sometimes people will message me, and I won't see that message until months later.
yeah. So it's like some of
Mhm.
them,
Yes.
like it can get overwhelming, but like I think that for the most part, like if people email me, I do my best to respond and just let people know, like I think I don't I want any author to feel comfortable reaching out and just saying like, hey, like can I read your book? Oh well, can you read my book? Um, Other than that, what I read is just based on how I feel at that moment. Like if I'm in the mode, if I'm in the mood for romance, then I want to read romance. If I don't feel like reading that, and like if you reach out with a romance book, but I'm not in the mood to read a romance book, then I'll put that book on my TBR because eventually I'll want to come back to romance.
Mhm.
But I might not be in the mood to read that right then. But definitely I feel like one of the most important um aspects of creating a page, like as it began to grow, I definitely wanted it to be a platform where indie authors and authors just in general could leverage those numbers and say, well, look, I might not have a major publisher behind me, but it's kind of like a case study where they can say this video with my book got this amount of views, this type of interaction, so that they can leverage that to move forward in their career.
Right, right, right.
So, you mentioned a book club that you're in.
Yeah.
Is it an all male book club or is it a theme based book club? What do you all read in the book club?
So it's my book club. It's called the E-Readers. We run it through Discord, so it's digitally. And right now, we have like 30 or 40 people that are in there. Um, and there are some guys, mostly women, but we just transitioned to basically like I'll pick a book. So right now we're reading The Alchemist to start off the year, and then each month we do a guided discussion basically on the book that we're reading. And then I also do like a kind of like once a month we do like a raffle. So somebody wins a free book. And then we just kind of like we have like a daily check-in that we do via Discord. So it's been nice. It's been nice. Yeah. But it's not just for women or just for men. It's just anybody that loves to read. And I think this year I've just been wanting to make sure that the books that we choose, I want people to feel like they understand more of me and understand more of why I choose certain books for us to read.
Okay, so you pick the books?
Now, yeah, last year we did voting, like we would vote, but it became very taxing. And then this year we kind of transitioned into like, okay, like I'm gonna choose the book so that I can also do better about guiding the conversation when we have the discussions and things like that.
Okay,
Okay.
so it wasn't
Well,
because they were choosing whack books and you just got tired of those books.
Oh no, like it was just like it became a lot because it was like, you know, we would be reading a book, but it was like imagine you have 40 people in a room and you're saying, hey, like we need to vote on a book,
Yeah.
come to a consensus while you're also reading another book. Let's make sure everybody has that book. It just became logistically it was a lot. um and even the people in the book club said like, hey, I think that we like this a little bit better, to where it's just like, okay, here, this is what we're gonna read. And we also have channels in the Discord that are set up to where, like, let's say you don't want to read the book of the month, you can do a buddy read with somebody in those channels and still like be part of the book club. So, but
okay.
yeah,
I have to get
Um,
Discord.
yeah, I was gonna
I
ask about that's what I was gonna
have
ask about.
never used Discord.
How is this is spelled Discord? Is that
yeah, CORD, yeah, Discord.
dot
Um,
com or dot net or
it's an app. They
Oh, it's
have
an
it
app.
online. They have
It's
it
an
online as
app.
well.
Okay. Okay.
But I think that it would work great for y'all's platform, and it's one of those where you can create a community and you can create channels where like maybe you have a channel that's set up for authors, a channel that's set up for beta readers and things like that, and they can go into those channels and find their audience. Um, but it's been nice. It's been very nice, and it can be free. You can set it up to be free or paid. It really just depends on how you want to set it up.
That's
Interesting.
my first time hearing about it. And it's so many creative things happening. And
It's a
even though
lot.
we've been doing this for 5 years, 5.5 now,
Congrats.
it's always, and we've had over 800 guests, and we're now
Mhm.
like I think we're right at 830 somewhere in there. So
Yeah,
I'm thinking we'll be to 900 by the end of the year. So, but we've talked to a lot of people.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, different people. These are 800 different people. So, but I really like the idea of people creating their own platforms around books where it really helps sell books for one.
Yeah.
Um, and it helps authors get a real foundation
Hmm.
of readers that they can build from.
Yeah, definitely. And I think
Discord. I just have never used it, but I think you've given me an idea. I'm going to look into it because it would be a great service to a lot of the authors I help to support.
yeah,
I like the idea of what you said of like maybe having different rooms for people to go into um,
yep,
for beta readers, or if you're looking for a new book. Yeah, I like where you're going with this. I'm gonna look into this.
yeah. And if
Yeah,
you have any questions, feel free to like reach out to me. I can send you an invite to my Discord so that you can see kind of like how it was like set up and you can go from there. But like it's it's been very helpful, and I think one of the beautiful things about the book space is that it's intrinsically you kind of have to step away from social media to read the book. Um, but I think that part of it is that people love the community. And I
Yeah,
think that having something like a Discord enables people to feel like they're part of a community, even if they can't physically be in the same space.
it makes
mhm.
sense.
It does. People are really doing some creative things, and it's really great helping people were saying that the books are dead or book reading is dead and nobody's doing it, but it always perseveres
Yeah.
because it's I've always had the hobby of reading since I was 3 or 4 years old, but um it's something you can do that doesn't require other people to be involved necessarily, but it's very entertaining. You can really get lost in a book,
Yeah.
and that's what I really like about reading.
Yeah.
Now, are you considering doing any writing yourself, or are you just strictly a reader?
No, I'm just reading. Like if I were to ever write something, I think that I would be interested in writing a romance. Like I would love to write a romance that highlights what like men are like when they're like in love. But like do I have like any plan to actually write it? No. Like I'd be more than willing, like I would love for an author to just be like, hey, like to give somebody an idea and be like, you write it, I'll just enjoy reading it. Like I'm okay with that.
Okay.
No,
Yeah.
So what? Go ahead, Rhonda.
I was just saying, I love that. I mean, you just want to be a reader and enjoy reading. I think sometimes we keep wanting to make our hobbies a gig instead of just keeping it a hobby or something that we love. And
Yeah.
you found something that you love and you just want to keep it something that you love. I love
Yeah.
that.
For
Yeah,
sure. For sure.
but I think your diligence around what you're doing is really great in terms of you really turned it into in a short period of time. Because I was thinking you've maybe been doing it for 3 or 4 years, but you're saying just a year, you've been able to create I guess the word of mouth really travels
Yeah,
on
and
those
God,
platforms.
you know what I'm saying? I feel really blessed to have found this community and like for them to embrace me like that, you know. So it's been a blessing for real.
So,
And it's all
what did you say?
I'm saying it's all been organic. You these
Yeah,
I
that's.
mean, because you've built your community very quickly.
Mhm.
Yeah, so like they're everything has been organic. I always say there are things that I feel like are kind of you can't plan for, you know. Um I think that initially you're going to get the attention from being a male in a female dominated space. Um, and then after that, I think that there have been a lot of things that have happened where it was like you might have a viral moment where it's like you see a spike. Um, I don't know if you've heard of Trey read that, but he very early on shouted me out on his page, and that led to a big spike. You have readers like Smitty and Brit and her books who have shouted me out on theirs and things like that, where it's like you can't really account for that. It's just like when it happens, you get like a big influx of people that find your page, you know. Um, but I think that like for me, outside of those things, I think the biggest thing for me was not overthinking it too much. Like I'm a big overthinker and I just wanted to show up, you know, like I wanted to be like, okay, like how can I show up every day and just post and have fun with it? And I think that over time, being consistent with that, eventually people see you so much that they're just like, let me just follow this guy. Like he keeps showing up. Let me just follow him. You know.
Yeah. And you post every day, or how often do you post? You go
I
twice
try
a
to post every 2 to 3 days now. At the beginning, I was posting every day, but that was also because I was posting every day because I was super lonely. So I was just kind of like, I'm gonna post to keep my mind busy. Now I've slowed down to a more sustainable posting schedule. But then I'll go live 3 times a week and things like that. So, but yeah, I enjoy it. I enjoy the creation process. Um, but I think that a big part of it is like you said, prior to this, like when I was younger, I did music and I loved creating music. But when it became too much of a business, it took that joy from
Yeah.
it, you
Yeah.
know? And I think that the beautiful thing about content creation is you don't have to monetize if you don't want to. You can just create and build the community and things like that. And you can kind of pick and choose when you want to monetize. And that's what I love about it.
Yeah, a lot of stuff that's monetized is built around clickbait. It's
Yeah.
on some of the stuff is not even true, or if it's a distortion of what happened.
Mm.
But it's like when you click it and it's not even what they said it was, it just really it pisses me off. So
No, I understand. I
I don't
understand for
like
sure.
people to trick. I don't like to be tricked into anything.
Yeah.
So that makes me want to unfollow a person if they're constantly, seriously, if
Yeah.
they're constantly trying to just make me click with false information, then I don't want to follow them because I you know, not everything you shouldn't do just anything for money. You know,
Yeah.
it's
Definitely.
but that's kind of where we are. Um, but
It
I'm
can be,
glad to
yeah.
see somebody doing something for the passion, for the love of reading, because it really is a love. And I think what I saw of you, you were going live. It was
Yeah.
live videos. And it just came across somehow my news feed somewhere in one of the platforms. And I think I saw it more than once. That's what made me say, you know what? Let's invite him on the show.
No,
So
I appreciate it.
So anyway, let people know, okay, because it's not on the screen,
Okay.
how they can connect with you on the various platforms.
But I did put his TikTok and his Instagram in the
In the
chat.
chat. Okay.
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 Cool.
All right.
So yeah,
But
like
still tell people
yeah,
also.
so TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, it's all gonna be Edrick Reddit, and that's EDRICKREADIT.
Mhm.
Um,
Okay.
but yeah, like I have the Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Those are the three big ones. I'm slowly but surely getting stuff onto YouTube. YouTube is a little intimidating for me, I'm not gonna lie. But Instagram and TikTok, I'm all caught up there. Uh, but we try to make everything fun. Um, One of my biggest thing is making sure that like I feel like my page is a safe space for people to feel like they can discuss what they like and what they don't like without feeling like they're being attacked. Um, and other than that, like as long as you're bringing positive vibes, and you're able to reciprocate the energy that we're putting out, I think everybody's welcome.
Okay. Well, Edric, thank you for being a guest on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Congratulations.
Thank
And thank you for promoting books and keeping hope alive in the literary world.
thank y'all. Thank y'all for having me, and thank you for creating a platform like this because it's important for real. It's essential to the growth and the sustainability of reading as a hobby. So what y'all do is very important.
Well, thank you. And we enjoyed talking with you. And I will see you on the gram. Keep
Yeah.
doing what you're doing. And thank you for what you do to support authors.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Have a good night and Happy New Year.
All right. Happy New Year. Y'all have a good night.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, I forgot to tell our guests Happy New Year. But it's just the 6th of January. And we're just getting started with the year. And it's going to be a very exciting year. Before we bring on our next guest, our final guest for the night, the Black Authors Matter Children's Book Awards that we do every year. The National Black Book Festival is a sponsor, and the way it occurs is people submit their books for a period of time, and then we have a judging session, and then we announce finalists and the winners in each category. There are 8 categories. We changed it. We usually announce it at the book festival, and we're still going to do that. But this year is going to be more formal because it's going to be part of the Saturday breakfast that we do. So it will be at the Saturday breakfast. At the end of the breakfast, we will announce the award winners, and those that are actually there can receive their awards in public at the event. So that's, we wanted to, since we were doing it anyway, we were announcing them anyway, may as well make it more formal. So our final guest actually is one of the winners for the 2025 Black Authors Matter Children's Book Awards, and she won in the category, in our religious faith category, which a lot of book submissions, contests don't have a religious faith category unless it's by a Christian based group. But because faith is such a big part of our culture, of African American culture, we would be remiss if we didn't include a category for that. And every year we've had some amazing books for children that are faith based. So Pat Goffe won in our religious faith category for her book, The Prayer Board. And do you have a copy of your book?
All right, good evening.
Yeah.
Happy
Yeah,
New
good
Year.
evening and
Yeah.
welcome to Black Authors Matter TV.
Thank you for having me, Miss Gwen and Dr. Rhonda. It is a pleasure.
And thank you for being here tonight.
Absolutely.
And congratulations on being a winner.
Thank you.
And is this now, how many books have you written?
I've written 9 to date.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yes,
So did you get any awards for your other books that you've written?
I have. So,
That's
this is,
great.
yes,
That's
thank you.
great. That's
Thank you.
wonderful news.
Yes.
So we weren't the first, but I guess we're the last, most recent. Let me say
Most
that.
recent, most recent,
Recent.
most recent. More
Yeah,
to
the most
come.
recent. More to come. So that's
Yes.
what I meant by last and most
Yes,
recent.
I understood.
So your book Prayer Board, first of all, is very well illustrated too.
Thank you.
So a lot of people have vision boards, and you know, um, that's probably where your concept came from. So
Absolutely.
tell us about what made you come up with that concept for Prayer Board, and
So,
um, how did you decide the story would go?
okay, so in addition to writing, I'm also an educator by profession. I've been teaching for 25 years, and I teach at a Christian school. So,
Okay.
of course, we pray. We make sure we pray on a daily basis and we encourage prayer. And we also have arts and crafts. So I wanted to do a meaningful arts and craft project with my students. So I decided, like you said, instead of doing a vision board, to do a prayer board. So that's how it all began. I did the prayer board with students. They took it home. The parents loved it. And then they adapted as well. And they put it up in their home. And they said, oh, we love this prayer board. We love how it has us engaged in our prayer life now. So then went on vacation during the summer and came from a cruise with my family. And then it just hit me. Wait a minute. Not only should I just have not only should I have this prayer board, let me turn this into a story. So that's how it evolved from a craft to a story. So
That's
that way now it's something that can be seen in different homes and different schools and churches, and it explains what the prayer board is and what the different type of prayers are.
You really started something. Do you think that maybe you'll also do a workbook that goes along with it?
So that's a good idea. It is a good idea. I also do workshops that go along with them.
Wonderful.
Yes.
And I love
So
how the family project as well.
mhm,
Thank you.
mhm. My daughter did something similar when she was a child in the youth ministry, the children's church,
Mm-hmm.
where I don't think they called it a prayer board. It might have been called a vision board, but
Mm-hmm.
it was like a timeline for what I want to be doing when. And she had college and career. She had marriage, having children
Mm-hmm.
on her vision board. So now she is married and she is having her first child. It's due March 29th, and I'll be a grandma for the
Oh,
first time.
congratulations.
So, so she went to Christian school
Mm-hmm.
for from K through 9.
Mm-hmm.
So and she did go to public school for high school, but Christian school is very good for parents who can afford it or to decide to do that.
Mm-hmm.
It's a more controlled environment, uh, and um, they people think that they're not prepared, like for real life, if they go to
Mm-hmm.
Christian school, but that's not true. They
No.
actually are better prepared because they
Yes.
have a foundation
Mm-hmm.
for what's established,
Absolutely.
and what they have a real good sense of right and wrong.
Mm-hmm.
um and so, and there's some kids in Christian school who are not necessarily going on the right path. You still have a variety of kids.
Yes,
you know
absolutely.
you just
So
have
in addition,
go ahead.
So, in addition to being an author and teaching, I'm also the associate director for children's ministries for our conference.
Oh,
So
okay.
this is something that I do on a larger scale with the kids because there was a great need. A lot of people were saying, you know what, our kids need to learn how to pray. They need
Yeah.
to know that they can access God 24/7 and they need to know how to pray. And in some churches, I'm not sure if you're familiar, but there are churches that have what's called children's story time in the service. And afterwards, they'll ask a child or maybe an adult, but in some cases, a child to pray. And they'll immediately raise their hand. They're excited. They want to pray. And then you give them the mic and they're like, they're stuck, you know? And these are some of the most vocal kids. But what happens is they hear us, but they weren't taught. Now, some kids, you'll hear some things are taught and some things are caught. Some kids can mimic what we do, but there are other kids, they'll hear it. But then when you put that mic in front of them, they're like, well, what do I say? Where is he? How do I speak to him? Is he listening? Do I say it now? So that was another reason why I started the prayer board. And I wanted them to understand that when you pray, it's not just for you to ask God for what you want. Oh, I want a bike. Help me make friends. Those are all good things, but they need to understand that they need to have an attitude of gratitude. And that's the first step to the prayer board because I thought that was important. Because when we have an attitude of gratitude, it helps us see life so differently. And just to share a quick, cute story. So I have a student, I'm going to call his name John, okay? And we were talking about gratitude in the classroom. So what I did for each section of the prayer board, every day for 2 weeks, I took 5 minutes to talk about what each prayer meant for 2 weeks. So we talked about gratitude for 2 weeks. We talked about dedication for 2 weeks, confession, and supplication. But the quick story I want to share with you is gratitude. So we're talking about gratitude, and I explained to them having an attitude of gratitude is just thanking God for everything that you have, small and big. And when you start thanking God for all the good things, you'd just be amazed just how blessed you are. So it was raining one day, and the kid's like, "Oh, our recess got cut short." I said, "But hey, listen, you got 10 minutes. That class got no minutes." Oh, yeah. Oh, I'm hungry. But you had something to eat. There's kids that didn't have anything to eat. Things like that. And I would ask them, what are some things you could be thankful for? The fact that there are kids that can't go out in the sun because they're allergic to the sun, but you can. So we went down this and we did this for about 2 weeks. So one day he was in the vehicle with his mom and she was complaining. She's like, I'm running late, it's raining, and I'm at the red light and I have to get home. And he said, Mom, you need to have an attitude of gratitude because just 2 weeks ago, we didn't have a car. We were walking with groceries and it was raining. She said she turned around so quickly, she didn't know if she wanted to yell at him or hug him. He said, you need to have an attitude of gratitude. We need to give God thanks. And she said, you know what? Thank you for that. So it's the small things that we do with the kids that help them to know who God is. And the fact that he was able to share that with his mom, and his mom was in return able to share it with us.
That's a beautiful story because I think we as adults, we know this, but we get so caught up in life that sometimes it takes the innocence of a child to remind us and give us perspective.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah, out of the mouths of babes, or another scripture, and a child shall lead them. Because sometimes
Absolutely.
I know we were at a church that I wanted to leave, but I just hadn't made a final decision to leave. And I was really staying there because our daughter, in fact, I was pregnant with her when we had joined the church. And so she was 12 at this time. And I really was only there, and my husband had already stopped going. He just couldn't take it anymore. And so, see, I was only really going because I didn't want my child to be sitting at home on Sunday morning. It just was antithetical to everything I believe in as a PK, especially. So she said something one day at church that let me know, okay, she's not getting anything out of this either. This is it. That was our last Sunday at church. It was her hearing what I was hearing, but from a child's point of view, that we weren't being fed anymore. So she got it, and then we were gone. That was the last Sunday we were at the church. Sometimes they pick up on things because, like Rhonda said, we get so busy. Life is life, and we get caught up. We can't really. It's some simple things that we miss that children can pick up on.
And another thing I wanted to touch on that you said earlier, when it comes to kids in prayer, I grew up in church, and I remember wondering how to pray because I only heard the adults pray. And when adults got up and prayed, they prayed like sermons. Their prayers were like, sounded like mini sermons, and their prayers sounded eloquent. And I thought that when I prayed out loud, I was supposed to sound like them. And I did not realize that my prayer language did not have to sound like adults. And so I think that the your prayer book is so important because kids have to learn that their prayer language does not have to sound like the adult prayer language. And their prayer rhythm and the things that their communication with God does not have to sound like the adults' communication. And now, as an adult, sometimes I hear folks in church like, "All right, your prayer does not have. You're not even praying anymore." Not, I hear it with different language. I'm like, "All right, you can sit down. You've been up there 20 minutes giving a mini sermon and calling it a prayer. You can sit down now."
Yes. I'm glad you touched on that, Dr. Rhonda. So, in doing that with the students, so we have what's called popcorn prayer because some kids, it's hard for them to give a sentence. So I would say, okay, at this time, we're gonna have a popcorn prayer for gratitude. So instead of giving me two sentences, three sentences, give me a word. What are you grateful for? Love, sacrifice, parents, food, shelter, and they just pop, 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 pop. And then by the time we get to the second week, they're giving me sentences because they realize, hey, you know what? I got so much to be thankful for. I can form two or three sentences and pray and give God the praise for all the things that He's done for me. So that's a strategy that's used to help them to start being more comfortable praying.
Yes.
Now,
So
what
the
are some
next,
of your other books about? Were you getting ready to talk about your next book?
oh, I was going to go to the next part in the
Oh,
book.
oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So I have dedication. So in with this part for prayer, we let them know that they can dedicate their lives to God. They can dedicate their talents to God because He wants what's best for them. And He's our creator. And of course, because He's our creator, He says that He wants us to have life and life more abundantly. When we dedicate our lives to Him, He guides us. He gives us the paths that He wants us to take. So that's something that's taught also. So in prayer, they say, Lord, I dedicate my life to you. I dedicate my heart to you. I dedicate my talent, whatever your talent is, whatever your talent is. And something, well, I don't know what my talent is. So well, pray about it. Say, Lord, reveal it to me. And then the next type of prayer we talk about is confession, confessing our sins. Okay. We don't need to tell a friend. We don't need to tell anyone. Just that's something between you and God. So, and for this part of the book, I showed them where they could write it with invisible ink because that's something private between them and God and ask God for forgiveness. And the last part that we talked about was supplication, praying for others, praying for others. And it was amazing because we had a student whose mom had a serious car accident, and the students got wind of it. And they said, we need to stop. We need a prayer of supplication. And it's at those moments when you realize, you know what you're doing matters. And the kids are catching on because they say, you know what? We need to pray for our classmate. We need to pray for their parents. When there's any kind of tragic event that's going on, they'll say, hey, you know what? Did you hear about the hurricane? Did you hear about the earthquake? Let's pray for those people because we told them prayer supplication doesn't necessarily mean pray for your mom, pray for your dad. You could pray for strangers as well. So it was something that they really grasped to, and I was very happy about that.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, thank
Now,
you.
what are some of your other books that you've written?
Okay, so my very first book was entitled I Am Not an Octopus.
Okay.
And and basically when I first started writing the story, well, thinking of the story, it was years ago. I wrote it maybe 7 years later, but the first time I told it to my students, I told it from a teacher's perspective because we were learning about different types of animals in the classroom, and octopus was one of them. And one of the students, like at the time, my maiden name was Marty. They're like, Miss Marty, Miss Marty. I was like, listen, we just talked about the octopus. I am not an octopus. And I was like, oh, I like that. So so then the student's like, remember, she's not an octopus. So then I created a story where the teacher tells the students that they're not an octopus. But then I got married and had kids. So then
Right.
I was able to relate to on a whole different another level. I'm like, listen, y'all, I'm mom. I'm not an octopus. And in that story, it talked about it teaches it taught a valuable lesson that we shouldn't take the people that we love and that cares for us for granted. So the mother's here doing everything for the whole family, and everybody's expecting her to do this, cook breakfast, and they walk away. They don't wash the dishes. They don't put anything up. Um, she's ironing, she's doing homework, and everybody's just taking and taking and taking and taking from her to the point where she's like, you know what? I'm gone. So she does a disappearing act when she just goes next door. They get away and she leaves a note, and it's the cutest note, and it says, you know what? You need a new woman in this house, a woman that could do a million things at a time. And at the time, it took that for the family to realize, oh wow, we've been taking mom for granted. We see our parents do so much, and we just think, oh, she's Superwoman, he's Superman. No, sometimes say, you know what? Sit down, mom. I got you. I'll wash the dishes. I'll cook. You know, a matter of fact, let me take you out to eat. So at the end, they find her, of course, and she comes home, and they explain to her, they say, you know what? We're gonna be those extra hands. So you can keep your hands to do the extra stuff that you love for us, and we will also be your help as well. So in that
Okay.
book, the value is to always lend a helping hand and never take advantage for those who love and care for you.
Okay, I like that.
Yes, yes. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
And
are
then,
all of your books children's books?
so funny you've asked that. So, the majority of my books are for kids K through fifth grade. That's my picture books. But then I did write a chapter book entitled "You Can Still Dream," and that chapter book is for middle and high school students. And this year, not only did I write prayer board, I co-authored with a pastor by the name Dr. Rupert Bushner, and we wrote a book entitled "It's Still Relevant: God's Plan for Us Is Love, Our Obedience to Him." So that was something that we wrote together, and that took me out of my comfort zone because it was longer and and we had to explain a lot more, and that came with a workbook.
Okay.
Yes.
All
So
right.
I've had the opportunity to write books for children as well as adults. Hmm.
Okay. And so, do you have your next book in the can, or you have it on your laptop somewhere where you started it? You got an idea of what it's going to be?
Yes, yes, it's here. It's here. It's
Okay.
coming. It's coming.
Okay.
Yes. But I
Okay.
wanted to touch base on You Could Still Dream, the middle school and high school book that I wrote. And
Okay.
basically, it's just letting kids know, or people in general know, that it doesn't matter what your background is. It doesn't matter where you're from. It doesn't matter how you start. You could still dream. Okay. And I've often shared my background with people. My parents migrated here in the 70s from Haiti, and this was a culture shock for them. They didn't have they had a language barrier, they didn't have the finances. And I growing up, I used to see other parents and I used to see other kids, and not to put down my family, but I wondered, how did they get there? I would always ask questions. How did they get there? And then I would start writing things down, and praise God for mentors and educators, because I had a lot of people that poured into me. And I would say, you know what, I want to be a teacher, I want to go to college. How are you going to do that? I would hear, some people would say that, look at where you come from, where are you going to get the money, how are you going to be able to get a higher education? But there was something in the back of my mind, the way God wired me, the way he put in my DNA, where I had this can-do attitude. I can do all things through Christ who give me strength. So I, in return, wrote this book to let kids know it doesn't matter what the circumstances are. You can still dream. It doesn't matter what comes your way. You can still dream. Now you may have some things that set you back, but no matter what, just go back and keep going. Like, I had a friend that was struggling trying to finish school. I was like, listen, take one class at a time. Eventually you're finished. And guess what? She finished. So everybody's story is different. Everybody's life is different. So you have to decide what works best for you and just keep your eyes on the prize. You can still dream. So that's one of my books that hits home for me.
Thank kids.
Say it again.
That's a great message for adults and
And
kids.
kids,
Yeah, I
exactly.
was gonna say some grown people need to hear that message,
Yes, yes, absolutely.
because sometimes people can they have some setbacks, and then
Hmm.
get defined by the setbacks, and then they get discouraged.
Absolutely.
Their
Absolutely.
dream ability gets diminished. So, but you have to. Tomorrow is always another day,
Absolutely.
and you can always every mistake just about. I mean, there's some mistakes that are somewhat, I won't say fatal, but you know, if you kill someone, that's difficult unless it's self-defense. It's hard to come back from that. But just about everything else, you can come back.
I agree with that, Ms. Gwen. Definitely, wholeheartedly. Absolutely.
And we've all had setbacks, you know.
Absolutely.
So sometimes people will. I've had people comment online that think they know me, but they don't know me, you know, and they say, "Well, you haven't never had to do without, or what? You don't know what I've had to do.
You hear me? You
No
hear me?
idea what I've had to do to be where I am now, which is wherever that is." I just always believe in myself and God.
Absolutely.
And with that determination, and I've had good support,
Absolutely.
I had a great husband, but I initially, long years and years and years ago, I had a bad husband. I still had to keep, not this one, a different one. But I had to just keep praying and say, okay, God, I know this is not this is not going to be my life forever. I knew it wasn't. So
Yeah.
I just had to keep the faith and just,
That's
it
right.
wasn't always easy, but tomorrow is always another day. You can make changes. You can have a new idea that'll just change everything, So
He'll bring you through it. And then it's amazing how my life story, I've been able to inspire so many people by being transparent. I'm like, listen, I wasn't always here. Listen, I used to catch 2 buses, okay? I used to have to share half a Whopper with my sisters because they couldn't afford the whole Whopper. And I would share these stories. They're like, for real? Are you serious? I'm like, yes, this is true. But the whole time I had it in my mind, I can do all things through Christ who give me strength. I'm gonna make it. And I remain transparent. I'm not ashamed of my past because it is who I am today.
I used to have to walk barefoot in the snow both ways.
See? And look at you
I
now.
rode a bike for a year and a half, and I was an adult because my car died. After I rode. You know what? I was in great shape.
I
See, you
said
had an attitude of gratitude.
yes, I said that just, but no, but you're right. We've all had struggles. We've all made mistakes. We've all had to do some things that we may not have been particularly proud of, but we've made it through. We've made it.
Absolutely.
We don't have to look like our struggles.
No, we
No,
don't.
we don't.
We don't. We don't. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Pat, for being a guest on the show.
Okay.
And
I appreciate it.
congratulations again on being an award winner. We were happy to send the award to you, and your book, rose above the other. Oh, there she has her award. It
Thank
rose
you.
above the others in your category. So thank you so
Thank you.
much. And Happy New Year.
Happy New
Congratulations.
Year as well. And thank you for this platform. You guys are doing an amazing job. Keep doing what you're doing.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you. Bye.
Have a good night.
Good night.
I wanted to leave a couple of minutes so you could talk about the Black History Month Literary Weekend before we go.
Okay, Black History Month Literary Weekend tickets are on sale now. It is going to be an amazing weekend. This is our 10th anniversary weekend, February 19th through the 21st in New Orleans. We are going to be full steam through the entire weekend. So the 19th, we'll have a meet and greet. On the 20th, we're going to have a writer's workshop at the Algiers Public Library, and that's going to be featuring myself as well as Brian W. Smith. All 14 of our featured authors are going to be there, heading up breakout sessions throughout the workshop. We're going to be doing a huge book signing event at Barnes & Noble Bookstore. And then we're going to have a night of comedy featuring comedian Steve Brown, Nicole Blue, Rod Minger, and Christopher Columbus, and that's going to be at Cafe Istanbul in New Orleans on St. Claude Avenue. All four of these comedians are hilarious. If you follow them on Instagram, they have huge followings. Very, very funny. You've probably seen them on TV as well as on social media. And believe me, you'll be in stitches. And then on Saturday is our main event, the Ivory and Cream Affair Literary Jazz Brunch, where we will have live music. We will have, of course, we'll have a gourmet meal. We'll be awarding our For the Culture Book Awards. We'll be awarding our 8th and 9th grade essay contest winners. We will also be, you will also meet all 14 of our featured authors. We're going to have our guest speakers, which will be Councilman Eugene Green, as well as Lisa Aubrey Gwynn. You've got to meet Lisa. She's amazing. She is actually from Louisiana, but she traveled to Ghana and Cameroon, and she actually was very instrumental in discovering one of the largest slave trade sites in the world called Bimbia. And she wrote an entire book about it. We've got to get her on the show so she can talk about it one day.
Okay.
She's going to be another one of our guest speakers. So it's going to be an amazing weekend. We're expecting this to totally sell out. So we're partnering with a number of organizations in the New Orleans area. I'm supposed to be meeting with one of them tomorrow. Hopefully we get a chance to meet with each other. I'm also partnering with one of the Zeta Phi Beta chapters in New Orleans, which was actually my old chapter. And we'll be donating some money to their scholarship fund while we're there. So like I said, this is an amazing weekend. This is one of the few Black History Month weekends that is totally dedicated to promoting literacy. So if you're in the New Orleans area, you definitely want to be a part of it. And if you follow me on any of my social media platforms, you can see the flyers. The flyers are absolutely beautiful. And I don't even know if I'm giving justice to the event by talking about it, but you've got to see the promotional material. It's absolutely beautiful. And I would love to see all of you there. Book clubs, if you are a mentor, because we do have you heard me mention the essay contest, and that contest is still open. So if you have kids in the New Orleans area in the 8th or 9th grade, they can participate in this contest as well. The winners in each grade will get $300 each. So we're giving away a lot of money. This is going to be something.
Well, Rhonda will tell us more about it as we get a little bit closer. I do plan to be there, I may only be able to be there for the cream and wine and cream or whatever, Ivory and white or whatever it's called, but I will be there. So anyway, we are at the end of our time. We're at the end of the show. Thank you all for tuning in, and we will see you next week on another amazing episode of Black Authors Matter TV. I'm Gwen Richardson signing off.
And I'm Dr. Rhonda Lawson. Have a wonderful evening and a great week.
Thank you for tuning in, and join us next Tuesday at 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern for another edition of Black Authors Matter TV.